The purpose of this tutorial is to give you an overview of a tool called Geddit, which is a web-based tool that will allow you to assess your students during a lesson, and it also allows you to get instant feedback about their understanding of your lesson and how they're feeling about the content that you're teaching them. So if this is a tool that you're interested in learning about, you can go to the website, which is letsgeddit.com. And once you're on this website, you can go to the top where you see the link to access the teacher login page. And from here, if you go to sign up, you'll be asked to fill in basically your name, your school email address, and password. And if you already have an account, you can go back up to this teacher's link and select login. And once you're logged in, you'll be taken to a dashboard that looks like this. And the first step in using Geddit is to create your classes. So if you already have classes, you can select Add Another Class or just the Add Class link. And you'll be asked to give your class a name. And then you can create your class. And from here, you'll just be prompted to either start a brand new lesson or to set up your student accounts. So you can decide which you'd like to do first. Let's start by looking at how you'd actually allow students to join your class by going to set up students accounts. Basically, you have a couple of options. You can enter the students by hand yourself, and if you have a class list, you can upload that. Or otherwise, I think the easier option is to actually present your students with a class code, and this will allow them to self-register for your class. So I would just project this code on your screen for students to see or write it on the board, and they can register to join your class. So for demonstration purposes, I will pretend that I'm a student, and I will show you what this would look like to self-register. Basically, when they go to the sign in students as a student link, they will have a few options. If they already have a username and password, they can enter it. Or if this is their first time logging into Geddit, they'll want to sign up. So you'll have them enter their name, enter their email address, and enter a password. And then from here, it's basically asking the students to enter that class code. So I will go back to my teacher dashboard so I can copy this code, and I can put this now in the student registration field. And it tells me that I am now enrolled in that class. So I can click on this, sample class period 4, and basically there's nothing going on right now. So this dashboard looks empty from the student's view. So going back to the teacher screen, you can see now that the roster list has updated here, and this student, sample student, is now part of the list of students here below. If you press this edit button, you can actually override what the students had entered. Let's say that you didn't like the way the students put in a nickname, or maybe the name wasn't formatted the way you wanted. You have the ability to change that, as well as reset a password from this page as well. So if we go back to this Geddit link in the top left corner, this should take us back to our dashboard. And now for this class period, I've got my one student entered, and I can begin by adding a lesson. So I'll go to the new lesson button to begin. And to start, I will title the lesson. And you can see the students will be listed here over off to the left side of this page as well. If you had a lesson that you were creating, you could actually mid-lesson register students if you wanted to by clicking on this button here above all your students. But if we're just going to focus on creating the lesson, you can type a brief description of what you're learning about in this lesson in this field right here. And you can then go to add a new question related to this topic. So if I select new question, I have two formatting options for the text for my question. There's standard question, which will just give you your standard text box, or you can switch to math question, and it will provide you with a few additional equation editor options here that you can select and add to an equation here at the bottom if you want to. So either way, you can ask your first question. And if you wanted to, you could actually upload an image if there is an image that would support your question. And below, you can decide what answer type you prefer for this particular question. So if it's multiple choice, you would put in your answer choices below. And if there was actually a correct answer to this question, simply click on the box next to it, or more than one if there's more than one correct answer, to basically create the key to the quiz as you're creating this. So if you instead chose short answer, there's no way for Geddit to actually grade the responses for short answer along with long answer. It's basically just an empty space for them to fill in. So short answer is they'll only get 140 characters. Long answer, they get an unlimited amount of space to respond. But you will have to read those responses yourself. And it won't look for keywords. It won't grade it for you. Or a poll question. So this one does not have a right or wrong answer. You're just polling the class to see how they feel. And if you like that question you created, you can save it. And it will be added here to your questions, basically. So from there, what you could do is add additional questions by selecting the new question option, or if you had a brand new topic as part of that lesson, sort of a branch off, you can actually start a brand new topic, and it will transition students into this new topic with these separate set of questions within your lesson if you wanted it to be like that instead. So now if we were to look at the view of the students instead, what I can do now, if I wanted to start teaching this lesson, I could press start teaching right now, or I can press save and exit, and then I can actually start this lesson at a later time. So for now, I'm going to save and exit. So now that I'm back on my dashboard, what I can actually do is either pull up the lesson that I just created or another lesson that I had planned. And once I select that lesson, I will select Start Teaching. And what this will actually do is change the view that the students see now. And it's telling them that the topic has started. And here would be my description of this topic. So now I could, as the teacher, begin teaching my lesson. And at any point in the lesson, I could stop and ask the students how they're feeling about the lesson. Give them an opportunity to actually kind of self-assess their understanding. And I can rate how I feel as a student about this lesson using this little polling feature within Geddit. So let's say I kind of felt pretty good about the lesson. I could say I'm pretty confident, and if I wanted to, I can explain my reasoning before submitting my check-in here at the top. And you can see right here my screen as the student will update, showing at what date and time I submitted how I felt about the lesson. So switching now to the teacher screen, it is explaining here that a student has checked in with a comment. Now, if all of your students were active within your lesson and you asked for that feedback, you would see all of the students in this list start to change depending on how they felt about the lesson. So right now, this student is showing up as green because I submitted a positive response about how I'm feeling. If I was to submit a response about how I'm feeling later in the lesson, and maybe I wasn't feeling quite as confident, I could check in with maybe not as positive response, and you'll see the color on the teacher screen has changed. And it's showing that now this student isn't feeling quite as confident. So other than this check-in feature, another option that the students have from their screen is actually to raise their hand. And there is a hand in the top right corner of the screen, and if the student clicks on it, it shows that they're waiting for attention. On your screen, you will see the names of students that have raised their hands show up here on this bar. And if you've addressed their question, you can select that indicator right at the top and it will disappear. So now that you've seen kind of the ways that students can provide feedback about how they feel about the lesson, now we can actually talk about how you would assess their understanding of the content that you're teaching them. So here were a couple of questions that I had created for this lesson, and at this point in the lesson I can choose to ask the first one. And going back to my student screen, now you'll see the student will have the ability to answer a question. So the student will read the question and they'll decide which of these answer choices look the best to them, select it, answer the question, and it's actually showing immediately that the student selected the correct answer by seeing this little green check mark next to it. And then from my teacher screen, what I could do is click on that question, and it's showing me that 1 out of 1 students in my class have selected the correct answer. And you can see the answer that they selected below. So if I wanted to at this point, I could share a summary with students. And if you go back to the student screen, it's going to show the class overall how they performed. So they get kind of a visual as a group for how the group is performing. So going back to my teacher screen again, let's say I was ready to ask my second question. Now I can select the Ask button, and yet again I can click on it and wait for my student responses. And as a student, I can go in, answer the question. This time maybe I'll select the incorrect answer. So you can see what this would look like if you select the incorrect answer from the student's view. It will tell them their answer, and then we'll tell them what the actual correct answer is. And once again, on the teacher screen, you get that instant feedback. And you can share, the summary of the class results with the students as well. So once you're finished, you can select End Lesson, and your screen will change and you can get some class level results. And basically this will show you first the check-ins. So it will tell you what % of the time the students felt positive about the lesson and not so positive about the lesson. So you can see kind of overall how they felt. It will give you a list of students that may have had difficulty with the content, kind of based on overall how they performed. It will also give you the breakdown of how the class performed on each of those questions that you asked. You can leave a remark about the lesson just to save a reflection if you wanted to. Also, you can select Export, and what it will do is save an Excel file of this content that you can use to refer back to later. So this Excel file will actually include your students, and it will include their confidence level. If you don't want record of that, you can delete out these rows. It will also show you how they answered on these questions as well. So overall, if you wanted to, you could save your lesson reflection, and if you wanted to resume the lesson, you could. Otherwise, you can save and exit this, and you'll be taken back to the main dashboard. So hopefully today you learned a little bit about Geddit, and this could be a useful tool for assessing your students mid-lesson.